Self-worth is not something that can be debated, bargained for, or compromised. It is not up for negotiation. The way people treat you is a direct reflection of what you allow. And if you don't set the standard for how you want to be treated, someone else will, and it won't be in your favor. Think about it. When you walk into a luxury store, do you see signs that say, please, just take me home for free, or if you don't like me, I'll lower my price just to make you happy? No. Luxury brands don't beg for attention or discounts. They stand firm in their value, and the right people recognize it. The same applies to you. The moment you allow someone to treat you as if you are ordinary, you give them permission to keep doing it. It starts small. Maybe they don't return a call. Maybe they dismiss your feelings. Maybe they don't prioritize you the way you prioritize them. But here's the thing. When you tolerate disrespect once, you set a precedent that it's acceptable. And once that line has been crossed, it's only a matter of time before it happens again. This is why self-worth is non-negotiable. You have to be your own biggest advocate. If you don't respect yourself enough to set boundaries, how can you expect anyone else to? People will treat you at the level you allow. And if you keep making excuses for bad behavior, you're essentially telling them, this is okay, keep going. But let's get one thing straight. Knowing your worth is not arrogance. It is not entitlement. It is not about thinking you are better than anyone else. It is about recognizing that you have value, that your time, energy, and presence are not free, and that you are worthy of respect. Too many people settle for less than they deserve because they are afraid. Afraid of being alone, afraid of conflict, afraid that if they demand better, they will push people away. But here's the truth. The only people you will lose by standing up for yourself are the ones who were benefiting from your lack of boundaries in the first place. You don't have to scream for attention. You don't have to beg for respect. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. The people who genuinely value you will never put you in a position where you have to constantly question it. It's easy to blame others for taking us for granted, but let's be honest. At some point, we allow it. We let things slide. We hope they will change. We convince ourselves that maybe we're asking for too much. But the truth is, you are not asking for too much. You are just asking the wrong people. Imagine walking into a restaurant and ordering a meal only to have the waiter bring you a plate of something completely different. You wouldn't just sit there and accept it, would you? You wouldn't say, well, I guess I'll just eat whatever they gave me. No, you would speak up and say, this is not what I ordered. The same principle applies to life. If someone is giving you something you never asked for, disrespect, inconsistency, neglect, it is your responsibility to reject it. You don't have to accept anything less than what you deserve just because it's being offered to you. Some people will try to make you feel guilty for setting standards. They will call you difficult, demanding, or too much. That's because they benefited from your silence, and your newfound self-respect threatens their ability to take advantage of you. But remember this, the people who truly care about you will rise to meet your standards, not try to bring them down. Your self-worth is not determined by how much someone else values you. It is determined by how much you value yourself. And when you finally start treating yourself with the respect you deserve, you will notice something incredible. Your world will change. The people who never truly valued you will drift away, and the ones who do will step up. It all starts with you. If you want better, you have to expect better, and once you make that shift, you will never again accept being taken for granted. Human nature is wired to desire what is rare, the things we cherish most in life. Time, love, respect, loyalty, hold value because they are not given freely to just anyone. The moment something becomes too easily accessible, it starts losing its perceived worth. Think about it. The more available something is, the less people tend to appreciate it. This is true for material things, and it is even more true for people. Look at the world around you. Diamonds are valuable because they are rare. VIP experiences are exclusive because not everyone can access them. Limited edition items are coveted because they are not mass-produced. Now take that principle and apply it to yourself. If you are always available, if you always say yes, if you never pull back, people will start assuming that your presence is a given. And the moment they assume that, they stop valuing it. Scarcity forces appreciation. It's not manipulation, it's human psychology. When people know that something can be lost, they pay closer attention to it. If you have ever lost your phone, you know the sudden panic that sets in. You realize how much you rely on it, how much you need it. The same thing happens in relationships and connections. When someone realizes they might actually lose you, they wake up. Think about how people react when they sense they are losing something valuable. When a job puts an employee on a final warning, that employee suddenly works harder. When a partner starts to distance themselves, the other person often starts trying to fix things. When a loyal friend finally gets fed up and pulls away, that's when people start realizing how much they contributed to their life. The truth is, appreciation tends to increase when the threat of loss becomes real. But the problem is, many people never create that sense of scarcity. They keep showing up no matter how they are treated. They keep answering texts immediately. They keep making time for people who don't prioritize them. They keep investing in people who never reciprocate. And what happens? They get taken for granted. Not because they are not valuable, but because they never give anyone the chance to miss them. If you give too much of yourself too freely, people will start assuming that no matter what they do, you will always be there. They will stop putting in effort. They will stop showing gratitude. They will take what you bring to the table as a given rather than as a gift. And it's not because they are necessarily bad people. It's just how human behavior works. Look at any healthy, long-lasting relationship, whether romantic, professional, or platonic. There is always a balance. There is mutual respect for time, space, and presence. But the moment one person starts overgiving, overcompensating, and making themselves too available, the dynamic shifts. The other person, consciously or unconsciously, starts putting in less effort. The biggest mistake people make is thinking that the way to earn love, respect, or appreciation is to always be there, to always say yes, to always give. But in reality, the more you give without requiring anything in return, the more you unintentionally teach people that your energy is unlimited and that it doesn't need to be valued. That's why boundaries are so powerful. Boundaries create scarcity. They remind people that your time and energy are not infinite, that your love is not unconditional if it's not reciprocated, that your presence is something that must be earned, not just expected. When you start creating distance, when you start saying no, when you stop making yourself constantly available, you create a vacuum. And nature hates a vacuum. The moment people sense your absence, they start questioning why. They start paying attention. They start realizing what they had. This doesn't mean you should play games or manipulate people. It simply means you should stop overextending yourself for those who don't reciprocate. If someone is used to you always making the first move, stop. If someone assumes you will always be there, take a step back. If someone only notices your value when it benefits them, remove that benefit and see what happens. Some people will wake up, they will adjust, they will realize they never should have taken you for granted in the first place. Others will not. They will let you walk away, and that's your answer. That's the proof you needed to see that they never valued you as much as you valued them. The best way to teach someone your worth is not to tell them. It is to show them what life feels like without you. Scarcity creates value, and when you start enforcing that principle in your own life, everything changes. Words are powerful, but actions are undeniable. You can talk about your worth all day. You can demand respect. You can plead for someone to see your value. But at the end of the day, people don't learn through words. They learn through experience. They don't change because you ask them to. They change when they feel the consequences of their actions. This is where so many people go wrong. They think if they just explain themselves better, if they just communicate more clearly, if they just have one more conversation, things will change. But the reality is, if someone truly values you, they won't need endless explanations. They will recognize when they've been given enough chances. They will understand without you having to beg that their actions have consequences. Think about a child who keeps touching a hot stove. You can tell them over and over, don't touch it, it's hot. But until they feel the burn for themselves, they won't fully grasp the lesson. The same applies to relationships. People don't just wake up and change because you ask them to. They change when they feel the discomfort of losing what they took for granted. If someone is treating you as if you're replaceable, if they are dismissing your needs, if they are taking without giving, talking about it is not enough. You have to act. You have to stop making excuses, stop hoping they will wake up on their own, and start showing them exactly what happens when they continue their behavior. This means pulling back. This means enforcing boundaries. This means no longer being the one who always reaches out first, no longer being the one who always makes the plans, no longer being the one who puts in all the effort while they sit back and do the bare minimum. Some people won't realize how much you do for them until you stop doing it. They won't understand the depth of your presence until they feel your absence. And that's not because they are necessarily bad people. It's because they have been conditioned to believe that your effort, your energy, your time will always be available. But here's the thing. If you keep showing up for people who don't show up for you, you are teaching them that it's okay to keep taking from you without giving back. If you keep explaining your worth instead of demonstrating it, you are allowing the cycle to continue. This is not about being passive-aggressive or playing games. This is about showing people through your actions that you will no longer participate in dynamics that leave you drained and unappreciated. Let's be clear. When you stop chasing, when you stop over-explaining, when you stop trying to convince someone to see your value, one of two things will happen. Either they will realize what they've been taking for granted and step up, or they will let you go, and that is your answer. That is all the proof you need that they were never truly invested in the first place. But here's where most people get stuck. They are afraid of what will happen if they stop trying. They fear that if they don't initiate, if they don't keep putting in effort, the relationship will fade away. And that fear keeps them trapped in a cycle of overgiving, over-explaining, and overcompensating for someone who isn't doing the same for them. But ask yourself this. If you have to carry the entire relationship on your back, is it really a relationship? Or is it just you refusing to let go of something that isn't meant for you? It's time to stop telling people what they should do and start showing them what happens when they don't. If they don't respect your time, take it away. If they don't value your presence, remove it. If they only notice you when they need something, stop being available. Because at the end of the day, people don't respond to words. They respond to what they feel. They respond to shifts in energy. They respond to the loss of comfort. And when they finally feel the impact of your absence, that's when they will truly understand your worth. Change does not happen in comfort. People do not wake up one day and suddenly decide to appreciate what they have unless something forces them to. And more often than not, that force is pain. Think about the biggest lessons you've learned in life. Did you learn them when everything was easy, when life was smooth, when you were comfortable? Or did you learn them when you went through something difficult, when you experienced loss, disappointment, or struggle? The truth is, we don't grow when things are easy. We grow when we are challenged. And the same applies to the people in your life. If someone has been taking you for granted, if they have been treating you like an afterthought, if they have assumed that no matter what they do, you will always be there, it's because they have never felt the pain of losing you. They have never been forced to experience life without the comfort of your presence, your effort, and your support. And as long as you continue to shield them from that discomfort, they will never truly understand what you bring to the table. This is where most people struggle. They think that if they just keep explaining, keep forgiving, keep making themselves available, one day the other person will wake up and suddenly change. But that's not how human nature works. People don't change until staying the same becomes painful. Look at any major transformation in life. People don't start taking their health seriously until they experience a health scare. They don't start managing their money wisely until they face financial hardship. They don't start treating someone better until they realize that person is no longer willing to tolerate being mistreated. Pain forces action, discomfort creates growth. And if someone has never felt the pain of losing you, they have no reason to change the way they treat you. This doesn't mean you have to be cruel. This doesn't mean you need to manipulate or intentionally hurt someone. It simply means that you must stop protecting people from the consequences of their actions. If someone ignores your needs, stop making excuses for them. If someone continuously fails to show up for you, stop showing up for them. If someone only realizes your worth when they need something, stop being so quick to meet their needs. Because as long as you continue to be available despite their neglect, they will never feel the discomfort necessary to wake them up. People don't change when they are given endless chances. They change when those chances run out. They change when they realize they have pushed someone away to the point where there is no coming back. They change when they feel the void left by the absence of someone they took for granted. But here's the hard part. You have to be willing to let them feel it. Too often, people go halfway. They pull back for a few days, but then when the other person reaches out, they immediately respond. They distance themselves briefly, but the moment the other person shows a little effort, they go right back to overgiving and over-explaining. And in doing so, they weaken the lesson. You cannot teach someone the value of your presence if you are never truly willing to walk away. You cannot make someone feel the discomfort of losing you if you keep rushing back the moment they show the smallest sign of regret. The lesson only works if they truly experience what it's like to no longer have access to you the way they once did. Think about a child who keeps misbehaving. If the parent keeps warning them but never actually enforces consequences, the child learns that the warnings mean nothing. They continue the behavior because they know deep down that nothing will really happen. The same is true in relationships. If someone keeps disrespecting you, keeps neglecting you, keeps taking you for granted, and you keep giving them chance after chance, they learn that there is no real consequence. They learn that no matter what they do, you will always be there. But the moment you stop cushioning the fall, the moment you allow them to feel the full weight of their actions, that's when the lesson sinks in. Pain is an incredible motivator. It shakes people out of complacency. It forces them to reflect, to evaluate, to see things from a perspective they never considered before. And if someone truly values you, if they truly care, the discomfort of losing you will push them to change. But if they don't, then the lesson wasn't just for them, it was for you. It was the clarity you needed to see that they were never going to appreciate you no matter what you did. At the end of the day, the only way to teach someone the cost of taking you for granted is to let them experience it for themselves. And that experience, the pain of loss, the discomfort of absence, the realization that you will not tolerate being undervalued, will be far more powerful than any words you could ever say. There is a moment in every person's life when they realize that their greatest strength is not in holding on, but in walking away. Too often, people stay in situations where they are unappreciated, disrespected, or taken for granted because they believe that if they just give a little more, if they just try a little harder, things will change. But here's the hard truth. No amount of effort on your part will make someone appreciate you if they don't already see your value. Let that sink in. If someone is taking you for granted, it's not because they don't understand your worth. It's because they don't fear losing you. They believe on some level that no matter how little they give, no matter how much they neglect you, you will stay. And as long as you continue to prove them right, they have no incentive to change. This is why walking away is the most powerful statement you can make. It sends a message louder than any words ever could. It says, I refuse to be an option. I refuse to beg for respect. I refuse to convince anyone of my worth. People wake up when they experience loss. They don't change because you cry, because you plead, because you explain. They change when they realize that their actions have consequences, real consequences. And nothing delivers that message more effectively than your absence. Walking away is not weakness. It is not giving up. It is an act of self-respect. Think about the most powerful, successful, and respected people in the world. Do they beg to be valued? Do they chase after those who ignore them? Do they waste their energy trying to convince someone to see their worth? No. They operate from a place of confidence, of certainty, of knowing that their presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And that is exactly the mindset you need to adopt. When you walk away, you shift the entire dynamic. Suddenly, the person who took you for granted has to face the reality of life without you. They have to sit with the discomfort of your absence. They have to question their own actions instead of you constantly questioning your own worth. But here's the catch. Walking away only works if you actually mean it. Too many people walk away as a test only to come running back at the first sign of resistance. They cut someone off, but the moment they get a text, they respond. They pull back, but the second the other person apologizes, they forget all the times they were neglected. This weakens the lesson. It teaches the other person that they don't really have to change, they just have to wait until you fold. So when you walk away, mean it. Don't do it to manipulate. Don't do it as a strategy. Do it because you truly refuse to tolerate being taken for granted. Do it because you genuinely value yourself enough to remove yourself from situations where you are not respected. And here's what will happen. Some people will chase you. They will suddenly realize what they've lost. They will promise to change. They will say all the right things. But words mean nothing without actions. If someone truly values you, they won't just say it, they will prove it. And if their actions don't match their words, keep walking. Some people will let you go, and that will hurt, but it will also free you. Because if someone doesn't fight for you, if someone doesn't even try to keep you in their life, that's the proof you needed to see that they were never truly invested in the first place. And wouldn't you rather know that now than waste any more of your time? Walking away is not easy. It requires strength, discipline, and an unshakable belief in your own worth. But it is the single most effective way to teach someone that they cannot take you for granted. Because once you leave, once you stop answering, once you remove your presence from their life, they will finally understand something they never did before. You were never an option. You were the prize. The greatest realization you can have in life is that your presence is a privilege, not a right. When someone takes you for granted, they are making a critical mistake. They assume that no matter how they treat you, you will always be there. They assume your kindness has no limits. They assume your patience is infinite. They assume that your love, your energy, your time, your effort will always be accessible. And for too long, you may have reinforced that belief. Maybe you tolerated the disrespect. Maybe you forgave too many times. Maybe you made excuses for their behavior. Maybe you convinced yourself that if you just held on a little longer, they would wake up and see what they had. But here's the truth. People don't learn through words. They don't learn through warnings. They don't learn because you explain yourself over and over again. They learn when they feel the loss. Your absence is a lesson they will never forget. The moment you finally walk away, truly walk away, everything changes. Suddenly, they no longer have easy access to you. Suddenly, they don't have the luxury of assuming you'll always be there. Suddenly, they are forced to confront a reality they never thought possible, life without you. And that reality will hit harder than any conversation you've ever had. Because here's what happens when you remove yourself from a situation where you are taken for granted. One, they will feel the void. At first, they may not react. They may assume you're just upset, that you'll be back, that this is temporary. But as time passes and you remain distant, reality will start to set in. The things they once overlooked, the way you supported them, the way you listened, the way you cared, will become painfully obvious in their absence. They will start to notice the silence. They will start to miss the small things, the messages, the check-ins, the warmth of your presence. And the more they realize what they lost, the more they will start questioning themselves. Two, they will realize that you weren't the problem. When people take you for granted, they often believe they can replace you. They assume they can find someone else who will give as much as you did, love as deeply as you did, show up as consistently as you did. But then they try. And they realize that what you brought to the table wasn't ordinary. It wasn't something just anyone could provide. It was rare. It was valuable. And the moment they understand that, regret starts creeping in. Because now they see the truth. They weren't dealing with just anyone. They were dealing with someone who truly cared. And they lost them. Three, they will regret not appreciating you. Regret is a powerful thing. It forces people to look back and see all the moments they could have done better, all the chances they wasted, all the times they had an opportunity to show up for you but didn't. And once that regret sets in, they will wish they could go back. They will wish they had valued you while they still had the chance. They will wish they had seen what was in front of them before it was too late. But by then, it will be too late. Four, they will either step up or fade away. One of two things will happen when you remove your presence. They will realize their mistake, and they will do whatever it takes to fix it. Not with words, but with actions. They will show up differently. They will put in the effort they never did before. They will prove that they have changed. Not because you begged them to, but because they felt the impact of losing you. Or they will let you go. And while that may sting, it is also the clarity you need. Because if someone doesn't fight for you, if someone doesn't even try to make things right, then they never truly deserved you in the first place. Five, you will finally see your own worth. But here's the most important part of all. When you walk away, when you stop allowing yourself to be taken for granted, when you make the decision to choose yourself over someone who won't, you change. You stop doubting your value. You stop questioning whether you were asking for too much. You stop lowering your standards just to be tolerated by people who should have cherished you. And instead of seeking validation from those who never truly appreciated you, you start validating yourself. Because the truth is, the lesson isn't just for them, it's for you too. When you finally remove your presence from someone who didn't value it, you don't just teach them what they lost, you teach yourself what you deserve.